thought we'd look into this because there are growing questions surrounding the New York Times and the abrupt departure of its top editor, Jill Abramson. Some are now asking whether she was let go because she confronted her bosses about being paid less than her predecessor, who was a man. The Times, as you may know, has covered the so-called war on women in a very big way in the past, a fact that did not escape our own Bill O'Reilly last night in his talking points. Here's what he had to say.
The paper denies Ms. Abramson was not paid fairly. This comes on the heels of the White House paying women 12% less than men, according to the American Enterprise Institute. That revelation embarrassed the president, who's pushing the equality deal. So, the two leading gender equality promoters, the Obama White House and the New York Times, both are now involved in pay controversies concerning women. To be fair, we don't know the truth of these situations, but that's the point. You can't make blanket pay comparisons unless you know all the factors of a person's employment, and that's impossible on a mass level.
Joining me now, Mary Catherine Ham, editor-at-large for HotAir.com and a Fox News contributor, and Bernard Whitman, a former pollster for President Bill Clinton and president of and CEO of Whitman Insight Strategies. Welcome to you both. Good to have you here. This has got everybody fired up around the water cooler today, and the reason is the suggested hypocrisy that Bill O'Reilly mentioned last night. You cannot be a newspaper that writes a big editorial saying, you know, the pay gap, the gender gap is real, and throwing that back in the face of people who say that it's not real, and then have this kind of story come out about your executive editor, Mary Catherine.
Yeah, I think that's the case, and I think it's sort of a case of raging hypocrisy here. And if you read the reporter at The New Yorker who's been following the Jill Abramson hire for quite some time, he's pretty plugged in when covering this stuff. He's got actual numbers suggesting that maybe this goes back several positions that she was in. And in fact, maybe some people who were under her in the newsroom made more than her at times. And that is hugely problematic for an institution who is pushing for a federal law to fix this problem, allegedly. And that, I mean, what liberal elite institution actually does have to live up to the ideal that they want to make into a federal law? Any of them? I mean, the White House and the New York Times are two pretty prominent ones you would think would be on the ball about this, but not so much.
And yeah, we've seen the same discrepancies cropping up among White House staff members as well. Bernard, what do you make of all this?
Well, you know, this has clearly devolved into a he said, she said, and Sulzberger said, look, she got paid actually 10% more than Bill Keller. I don't think we're going to actually find out the truth, but there are two troubling things that come out of this. One is that it is very clear that women typically are paid significantly less than men, 77 cents on the dollar.
77 cents on the dollar has been debunked even by the head of the Economic
Excuse me, Mary Catherine, I let you speak, so if you could let me speak, that would be awesome.
Well, I want to just correct you when you get something incorrect.
You can do that. You can do that when you have your time.
Finish your thought, and then we'll go back to it.
Thank you. And so I don't understand, frankly, why the Republicans have blocked the Paycheck Fairness Act, which would give women the ability to compare salaries without fear of retribution and ask for explanations when there are pay discrimination circumstances. Now, the second thing that's troubling is there's a lot of reports out of the newsroom that, you know, she was called pushy and the B word, which reminds me a lot of the descriptions that people used to describe Hillary Clinton, used to describe Christine Quinn, and I think that's extremely troubling because at worst it's sexist and it's offensive. Now, what tanked Hillary Clinton's campaign, what tanked Christine Quinn's campaign, was that they ran a bad ship. Now, maybe that same thing is true of Jill Abramson, I don't know, but it certainly raises significant questions about how we describe hard-charging women in the workplace.
There are men who are lousy managers, and there are women who are lousy managers, and we've all seen that in our experience, I'm sure, across the board. I want to play one more soundbite from Bill O'Reilly last night and get your reaction to this. Let's play it.
I think the phony war on women, the attempt to divide Americans along gender and race lines, is appalling. And now we are seeing those who promote that embarrassed. Talking Points will say once again, you will never have equality in a free marketplace. It's impossible. Talents vary, experience varies, circumstances are all different. Intelligent Americans know when they hear the word equality, it's being used to push a social agenda.
I mean, do you want to live in a world where if you have job A, you get paid this much? and if you have job B, you get paid this much? I mean, or do you want to be paid based on your qualifications and whether? And there are women out there who get paid more than men had been paid in the past for similar positions. So, you know, I mean, the equality thing, it cuts both ways. Doesn't always work out very well. Mary Catherine.
Yeah, a couple things. On the 77 cents on the dollar, Betsy Stevenson, who's head of Obama's Economic Council, when pushed on this figure, was like, yes, there are a lot of factors involved, and it's not as cut and dry as somebody like Bernard suggests.
That's right.
I will agree with Bernard that some of the discussion of Jill Abramson smacks of sexism in the way that she's characterized, and perhaps some of her management style would have been excused if she were a man. But again, women can be bad managers. And finally, I would suggest that folks like Bernard save some of their ire not for House Republicans to pass yet another law which deals with equal pay, allegedly, which they don't actually in real life, or else we'd have this problem licked at places like the New York Times. Save some of your ire for your liberal friends. Perhaps this is a problem of liberal culture at elite institutions, and they should deal with it in-house, and you should encourage them to do so.
Bernard?
You know, I think, frankly, that it does deserve a real explanation. I think the New York Times could very easily publicly come out and say, here's what she was paid, get the facts out on the table so we can clear the air. But, I mean, I think at the end of the day, if we go back and see 75% of millennial women, 57% of millennial guys say women still face too much discrimination in the workplace. 30% of women say they face discrimination in the workplace, and that's women at the top ranks are 45% more likely to say they've been discriminated against. I mean, I do applaud Jill Abramson. She did a great job of promoting women into senior positions like national editor, like D.C. bureau chief, and I hope Dean Baquet does the same thing, and he will be the first African-American. So I think the New York Times is, again, taking a leadership position in promoting diversity and culture.
It'll be nice when we eventually
really
hopefully get to a place where everybody will be judged on the qualifications and the job they do and not which label they happen to bring to the table. And that would be, I think, the optimum
But diversity
situation.
does matter, and that's why our country is strong.
Thank you, Mary Catherine.
Maybe liberals think they need these laws because they can't manage to live their values in their real lives.
All right. Bye, everybody. We'll catch you next time. Bernard, Mary Catherine.
Thank you.